Hello, hello. It's Nancy Smith Maddox on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry on WYTV7 out of Charlotte. I'm so excited. You're watching an award-winning show today. Shine Your Light was given the award, honored with the award of Best Television Show from the Gospel Image Awards, as well as WYTV7 in Charlotte was awarded the Best Radio Station from the Gospel Image Awards. So we're so excited about that today, and we are a nonprofit. So your donations do go to help promote our broadcast for all of the broadcasters that we have, and we do air these internationally. So I'm so excited that you're joining us today. Just a reminder that we are participating in Giving Tuesday on November the 27th. So please go and look that up and look it up on our Facebook accounts and try to make a donation on Giving Tuesday on November the 27th. We would appreciate it so much. Now, without further ado, let me just say I'm so excited today. I have a beautiful, beautiful person to interview. I think you're going to really enjoy this woman. Does a lot of stuff. She's a beautiful woman entrepreneur, and I'm just so excited. Her name is Natasha Brewer, and she is from Washington, D.C., but she doesn't stay in Washington much. She moves around a lot and does a lot of things. She is a songwriter, a music producer, a published author, and also a motivational speaker. So we're going to talk a little bit today about a little bit of everything that she does. So I'm so excited. How are you, Natasha?
I am just wonderful. So happy to be here.
Thank you so
How are
much.
you?
I'm so excited for you to be here. Let's start out by you just telling a little bit about your testimony.
Oh, thank you for having me. So my testimony, I have always written poems growing up, youngest of three children. And I just didn't feel like I had a voice. So writing was my vehicle of expressing myself. So I always wanted to write a book, but I just never had the time to do that either. So last year when I was separated from my husband and then I lost my job, I was so lost. So I wanted to I just fell into the arms of God and increase, just develop the relationship. I always knew that he was real. I always believed in God. But last year, I really took the time with the loneliness and separation from all of the distractions in my life to really develop that relationship with God. And out of that time, he blessed me with a process that I named Finding My Life's Love Song that really helped me walk through my past issues and pain and deal with all of that in order for me to become the person that I was truly called to be and to really step into my purpose. And from that experience, that's when I wrote my first book, Love Song. And that's when I started really getting serious about my songwriting. And that's when I really found who I was. And it was really, I wouldn't change anything about it. You know what I mean? I didn't know how bad I was feeling until I started feeling good about my life and who I was. And, I had children looking up to me, so I couldn't stay down. You know what I mean? So I had to push forward and I had to do what I was called to do. I always said, what is my purpose? And I hear a lot of people saying, what's my purpose? I don't know my purpose. But I think you have to get quiet, you have to get still, and you have to lean on God to truly understand what your purpose is.
Well, absolutely, and we serve such an awesome God.
Yes.
And if we just do the old adage of stop and listen, sometimes God makes us stop. And it sounds like it may have been what happened to you with your experiences. You had to stop and listen because you had nowhere else to go. And that's really exciting. Yes. So your first book was Love Song, right?
Correct.
And before we go into the rest of your books, I want to talk a little bit about your newest program that you're doing. I saw it on Facebook. You were in California. A lot of y'all were dressed in white. You looked beautiful on the page, but it's called Pledge 15. Tell us a little bit about what that means. That's your newest project, right?
Yes. So it's actually a part of an anthology that's titled The Unstoppable Warrior Women. It's about 25, 30 women came together to share their stories. And a part of that, out of that was the Pledge 15 movement, which is about pledging 15 minutes of your time to help another woman overcome something that they're going through. So basically utilizing your skills or your testimony to help somebody else that may be experiencing the same things that you have gone through.
Oh, I love that. I had no idea what Pledge 15 was. That's why I said I saw it, and I was just going to ask you about it. So
Yes.
on this anthology, Warrior Women, We Are Unstoppable, there's 25 women in that particular book?
Yes. And it's
What is your part of that story?
So it's was curated by Brashawn Shaw. She's an international speaker and she's also an author. But my part in the book is actually sharing my story from my childhood when I was sharing my experience, my traumatic experiences when I was in 11th grade. I was actually shot as a part of in a drive-by shooting outside of my high school. So just talking about that experience, talking about my growing up with my parents being separated and how that impacted my life, you know, all those situations, growing up not knowing, or like I said before, not feeling like I had a voice, and how I overcame that, and how powerful it was to write things. Even though you don't think you have a voice or anyone to talk to, it is truly, you know, it's truly powerful to actually write it out, because it actually gets it out of you, even though you're not speaking it.
Yes, ma'am. That's really exciting. I participated in an anthology too, but there were only 9 of us, and we told our stories. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, they were all a little bit different, but it does grab everyone's interest because each story is different, but it all comes back to the same thing of
Right.
surviving,
Mm-hmm.
restoration. And here at WYTV7, that is exactly what we do. We want to talk to real people like you. We want
Mm-hmm.
people to hear what you've been through, because we never know who we're going to touch. And
Right.
at WYTV7, we say if we touch one, then
Mm-hmm.
we've done our job, and you just never know. So I love the concept of that book, and I love that concept of Pledge 15.
Yes.
Pledge 15 minutes to another woman that may be going through the same thing. That's just no time. I mean, we
Yes.
waste that much time all the time. So yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I want to talk a little bit about your other books too.
Mm-hmm.
You had a book that was called There Was Power in the Pain, From Pit to the Palace.
Yes.
Want to tell us a little bit about that one?
So that's actually in the works. It's actually going to talk about my journey. So that's my story, my biography about exactly what I was talking about, how
Wow.
I found myself like in the lowest point of my life. And I found what I needed all the time, and that's God. You know, when you're down and you fall, you just realize how important a relationship with God truly is. He's been there the whole time, but you just didn't. Like you said, you have to stop and get quiet and listen to him in order to really develop that relationship. And you have to be in the word, and you have to like hunger to understand it. It's okay. It's one thing to listen to it and know, quote scripture, so to speak, but you have to take the time to really soak it in and understand it and live it. It's, you know, you have to live the word.
Absolutely.
And
You know,
so
I
that,
help a lot of people write books. I worked for a publishing company in Augusta, Georgia for 3 years, and I signed 65 authors. And as I would try to train them how to do their book, if it was a story about their testimony and you know, and their restoration, I would always try to tell them to put random scriptures in when you're writing and you're
yeah,
telling your story. When something pops in your head that maybe you remember a scripture, put it in there, because
yeah,
people really love to see that. They like to have a reference back to the Bible. It makes it really real to them. So that's really awesome.
yes.
So is the lowest point in your life when you got shot by the drive-by shooting?
Well, my actually lowest was like last year, because
Okay.
You know, I've been with my husband for like almost 20 years. And then I was with, well, we're back together now, but at that point it was like 20 years. And then my job was close to 20 years as well. So I basically grew up with these two things. And I had to figure out who I was at that point.
Wow.
These two major things in my life. And so, like you said, God would like kind of pull you um, or let things occur to like really so you can see what's truly important.
Yes, ma'am. And isn't it amazing that you were shot by a drive-by shooter at age
Mhm.
11? That wasn't the lowest point in your life. I mean, that
Right.
just goes to show you that we have valleys and mountains that we go through. And
Yes.
that's why we need to that's why we need to read the word. That's why we need to stop and listen to what God's telling us so we can make
Right.
it through those valleys, especially.
Right.
So
Yes.
that is amazing.
Yes.
Also, I noticed that you had a Renew Your Mind, a daily devotion.
Yes.
A book too?
Yes. So that's coming out later this year. It's actually had a group in Facebook where I will just go and daily, write inspirational things, and I'll have a prayer for the day and a scripture for the day. And, just try to show people how important it is to renew your mind daily. It's not a one-time thing to say, oh, I'm going to do something different. You have to work daily to renew your mind. And it's a powerful thing. If you change it, that's my little mantra, is when you change your mind, you will change your life. And that is absolutely what happened to me when I changed my outlook on life, when I changed my approach on how I dealt with situations. It completely changed my life.
Wow.
To
Yes.
express.
Oh, I think that's just an awesome story. Your whole story is just really fantastic to me. And so you have a children's book called Pink Monsters. What's
Yes.
that about?
So when my daughter was I would say like about 4 years ago, she drew a picture and then she was just telling the story for her tag program. And she was like, I was like, ask her what she wants to like expand on the story and actually help someone to realize. So it's basically about you don't have to fit into the mold of society. You can be different. It's okay to stand out. It's okay to like really do what you want to do. You don't have to do what people tell you you have to do. Not in a really rebellious way, but pretty much standing up for your purpose and who you feel God's called you to be. And I wrote that basically with my daughter to, get that out. So, and I think it's important.
That's a fun book, but it's so needed because right
Mhm.
now, especially in the times that we are in,
Yes.
people, we have to teach our children to stand up for themselves. I know my grandson, I have two grandsons, one's 14 and one's 11. The
Mhm.
11-year-old is kind of like he's like a bruiser. He's
Uh-huh.
kind of a big kid for his age, and he's very tender-hearted though. And he told me a couple of months ago in the car when I picked him up at school that this boy was messing with him, bullying him. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And he said,
Mhm.
well, Dad gets me a drink on the way to school and drops me off early. And when I set my drink on the brick wall at school,
Mhm.
this little boy, this friend of mine comes by and knocks it off every day. And I'm going,
Okay.
oh no, whoa, whoa, whoa. Have you told your mom and dad about this? No. And I said, have you told your teacher about this? No. I said, well, you need to tell your dad. And if you don't tell your dad, I'm going to tell your dad. Oh, no, Nene, I don't want to get him in trouble. I'm like, yes, he needs to be taught a lesson. That is called bullying, Brock. And
Right.
you have a tender heart, and people don't mess with you because of your size, but when they find out you have a tender heart, they'll bully you. So anyway, I told his father, and his father, what they decided to do is the next time they went to football practice, the head coach of football
Mhm. Mhm.
put that little boy up against my grandson and told my grandson to go get him. So he did it all legally. The little
Yeah.
boy never messed with him again. So there are ways, if parents are paying attention, to get over this bullying thing, which is such a huge concern right now.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to teach our children our children to stand up for themselves. So,
Yeah.
we don't want them to be violent. We don't want them to be ugly, but they do have to stand up for themselves. So,
Right. Yeah,
wow.
absolutely.
Wow. Okay, there's one that really, really caught my attention. And this is why I called you to do an interview, really, is because of this one. Biblical proportions.
Hmm.
You say storms come out to harm you, but storms come out not to harm you, but to shift you. And is
Yes.
this a novel? So
Yes.
this is not a true story. This is a novel. Tell us about that, because that book looked very, very interesting, and that's what caught my attention about you.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So actually, I thought about writing this book because I wanted people to realize how relatable the Bible is. So this book was actually inspired by the story of Esau and Jacob. And so basically the two characters are twins in the book, and they actually have that kind of relationship where that Esau and Jacob had. And in that book, I actually have scripture in there and there's a lesson in each at the end of each chapter. So basically, they were polar opposites, and they had their own experiences going through the story. But at the end, they found their purpose. They built a true relationship with God, and they overcame, and they actually were happier and experienced life. So although they went through that storm, ultimately it shifted them into where they were called to be all along. And I think it's so important for people to realize.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Well, it sounds really interesting. I want to get that book and read it. And I kind of like it because it's a novel too, but it does hit home with the scriptures that are in there.
Yes.
And I tell my people all the time that I help with their books and all. The cover's very, very important. The
Hmm.
cover's got to grab you, and the title's got to grab you.
Hmm.
And if that's done, that you're half of the way there, half of the battle there. And if the first chapter gets you, you're done. But that's what I looked at with this book,
Hmm.
Biblical Proportions. Storms come not to harm you, but to shift you. And I thought, that's really an attractive cover that you have on that book. Really drew me in. And I said, I have to interview this lady. I've got to do that. So then when I got in and started doing my research on you, I'm like, wow, I'm not sure I can do this interview in 30 minutes. This lady does a lot. So,
Going on.
so anyway, you also, you're a singing artist too, right? You're an artist and a song producer?
No, I just tell people that's the first thing they say. You're a songwriter, you sing. I'm like, no. I know my limits. No, I don't sing, but
You don't sing, but you write songs.
yes, I'm a
And,
songwriter.
and you have a company
Yes.
that does the songs. What is that called?
It's called Resonation Entertainment Group, and where our message is like everything that we put out has to be inspirational. It has to be motivational. If it's not motivating, if it's not inspiring, no, we're not doing it. So
Well, as I was preparing for the interview, I went in and listened to some of the music, and I picked up some that I really, really liked. You're not going to believe this, but I'm an older white woman, but I do like hip hop. I like a lot of hip hop. I mean, I like all music, but anyway, some of them really grabbed me. But I wanted to talk a little bit about one song that was an instrumental. It's called Swag So Hard. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that? That was a beautiful instrumental song.
Yeah. So Swag So Hard, it was actually that was one of the ones that was done by HRB Productions that I do a lot of work with. I didn't create that one, but it was basically about, just like I said, if it's an innovative beat or if it's like just something that gets you moving, that's definitely what we're all about. So we work with some great producers that kind of get that energy going and, just to get you moving. And don't music is universal. That's why it's just so important that people to realize how impactful music is. So they have to be careful with their messaging because it does impact people. It does, it shifts moods. it inspires, it brings stuff out of you that you didn't, realize. When you're sad, it can bring you up, or if you're sad, it can draw you down. So people have to be really careful about their messaging and what they're putting out, because music is truly a powerful thing.
Absolutely. And music is a universal language. It's been that way for many, many, many years.
Yes.
Also, I listened to another song called Smile. This was a hip hop song called Smile. Did you do
Right.
that one?
Yes, I did that one. I actually used that instrumental for, I do volunteering for a charity titled Songs of Love. So I used that instrumental for, and that charity's, their goal is to create personalized songs for sick children. So children with terminal illnesses that, they need something to like uplift them. So that song was actually, instrumental was actually utilized for a song for a sick child. So.
Wow, see, every time I ask a question, there's just more and more and more that you do. I think that's absolutely wonderful. So Songs of Love is a charity that helps terminally ill children, and you actually produce songs for them.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Natasha. I love that.
Yeah.
And also, I found one thing when I was researching called Power. I wondered if that was for the TV show Power. Was it?
No. It was actually.
I was hoping it was.
No, actually, it's Power is like a motivational song for women. It's like, we have power. We need to tap into it, and how we could come together as women and work together to like show who we are and not be intimidated by one another, but and just be okay with the power that you carry.
Right. I wonder if we'd be able to, if you'd give us permission to play a snippet of Power during this interview.
Yes.
Because I'd like for our executive producer to try to take a snippet of that song and put it in here as an example of kind of the things you do, because I like that concept. I mean, my first thought was it was for the Power TV show, but I'm like, wow, that's even better. It is to empower women and let them understand how much power they have. Yes. Do you use any of your songs for your introduction when you're speaking or anything like that?
Yes, I do. So some things. And as of late, I have been utilizing Infinite Love, which was off of the Infinite Love project EP that I did like a couple of years ago. And that project was actually sparked by someone actually contemplating committing suicide. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah, so a lot of the songs on there about dealing with abuse and dealing with abusive situations and the impact. And one of the songs that was dealing with suicide was a song titled Know Me. And it actually talked about or explored how someone who was contemplating suicide, but they realized the impact on their loved ones. Because I think when people get caught up in their situations and they're actually to that point that they no longer want to be here, they don't think about the impact. And that's what that song is really trying to show, the impact on your loved ones. People do love you and people do, truly care. But, when you're caught up in that depression, in that situation, you really can't see it.
Yes,
so I've been using, not that one, but Infinite Love off of that.
Wow, that's great. I think that's really, it's so powerful. So powerful, everything you're doing. Oh my goodness. And I thank you so, so much for your time today. I only have one more thing, and I really ask this of all of my guests. Shine Your Light's concept is to allow people to shine their light to the world to let other people know that we have someone out there for them. We're trying to help them. We
Mm-hmm.
want them, and it's not about me or my show. It's about my guests.
Mm-hmm.
So for Shine Your Light, I'd like for you to give the listeners a powerful takeaway to really inspire them to be better and leave their mark on the world. What would you say to that, Natasha?
Oh, excellent. And I just noticed your picture in the background, and how I close out the book, Biblical Proportion, is about talking about shining your light. So, and I just see like the beacon, and that's what we are. You know, that's what we're called to be in life. We're called to be a beacon of light to help people through their darkest times to understand that like trouble doesn't last always. So don't be afraid to shine your light. Don't be afraid to tell people about God. Don't be afraid to share your testimony. We all go through things to help somebody else. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no experience under the sun that's new. And everybody has experienced a bit of everything. So that's my message to everyone. Don't be afraid to speak. Don't be afraid to share. And shine your light, be that beacon to, draw people in and ultimately give God the glory.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's just so, it's so powerful because people are overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
They're scared and they just don't really have a way to get their story out. And
Mm-hmm.
I also do a prison ministry where we
Mm-hmm.
help the incarcerated. We
Mm-hmm.
help them tell their stories, which they all have a story.
Yeah.
And what better way for them to do than to write while they're in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And we help them do that too. So it's an exciting thing.
Yeah.
Because what we're trying to do is to let the world know that there is hope and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that we can just get as many as we can out there. So you never know what's going to click with one.
Right.
So, we are out of time, Miss Natasha. It's been fantastic. I'd like for you to say one more thing about how people reach you and what you'd like for people, how you want people to reach you and that kind of thing.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. You can follow me on all social media platforms. I have it's Tasha B, ITSTASHIAB, all together on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope. And I also have YouTube, and I also have my Natasha Brewer page on Facebook. So I share a lot of information. If you want to be a part of the Renew Your Mind Challenge, there's a group on Facebook. We share information. We do a quarterly fast, and we just work together to overcome. My business website is resonationentertainment.com, and my author songwriter page is itstashaB.com. So stay connected and join.
Yes, ma'am. And to all of our viewers and all of our listeners, please take advantage of this beautiful opportunity to reach out and listen and talk and read her books and go to Resonations and listen to her music. It's fantastic. Download it. And before we go, I'd just like to encourage you to stay on and listen to one of her songs called Power. We're going to play that song. Miss Natasha's given us permission to do that. So we're going to listen to that song on this interview, which I love. And also, can we also do a post for Pledge 15 so people will understand what that's about, Miss Natasha?
Yes, absolutely. So people can go to bit.ly/IPledge15. That's all lowercase, and they can volunteer to pledge their time of 15 minutes to actually join that movement to help another woman.
Okay, that's great. And we'll put that link on here too so people will know where to go to do that, because I think that's just fantastic. So we are out of time, and I thank you again so much. I just want to mention one more time, WYTV7 is participating in Giving Tuesday on November the 27th. So please set your calendars and let's give donations on on Giving Tuesday so we can make that a big hit, and we'll be able to broadcast our shows even more internationally. So thank you so much, Miss Natasha. It's been a joy. I love your story, and I just love everything you do. So thank